Activities are designed and organized observing spiritual inclusivity and respect for differences in religious persuasions. The courts refer to athletic activities and competitions. Physical activity is deemed as important as mental activity at Silliman. Facilities for different ball games, swimming, contact sports, archery, and rowing have been developed and opportunities arranged to explore students' potentials. Several Sillimanians have ruled the courts in their time, such as Mark Javier, the lone Filipino male archer at the Beijing Olympics, archers Jennifer Chan and Lisa Ignalaga, and ninth grader Nicole Tagle, long jumper Simeon Toribio. Silliman has long been a leader of arts development in the country. Its programs in music, dance, theater, and visual and literary arts have produced some of the best artists in the Philippines. The Silliman University National Writers Workshop, the longest-running literary workshop in Asia, has been ongoing for almost 60 years. Its founders, Drs. Idilberto and Edith Tiempo, are two celebrated Filipino writers in the English language. In recognition of Silliman's leadership in the development of culture and the arts, generous donors have gifted the university with cultural facilities such as the Claire Isabel McGill Luce Auditorium, dubbed as the Cultural Center of the South, and the Ariniego Arts Gallery. Social inclusivity and continuing involvement in the larger community characterize Silliman education. Students are challenged to test theories and principles through actual community work in service learning, an approach that combines reflection with participation in community-based projects to achieve specific learning outcomes. It enables the student to develop a more integrated understanding of theory, practice, and values. Students apply the service learning approach for community-based learning in business development, education, healthcare, legal management, disaster response, and environmental advocacy. Silliman University promotes a service learning approach to provide quality social engagement between the student and the community to develop critical thinking, civic responsibility, and leadership, as well as to strengthen the values of service and compassion.
Come to Silliman if you're seeking opportunities for growth and excellence in every dimension of your life. Be enriched by its holistic and responsive educational program with a Christian orientation. Find yourself in a learning community of highly qualified faculty, dedicated staff, supportive alumni, and exciting co-learners. Feel close to God in the beauty and splendor of the Silliman campus.
Silliman offers education for total human development. An education that is fulfilled in three ways. One, it promotes the convergence of knowledge from various disciplines and areas of learning. Two, it encourages inclusiveness as well as diversity, the acceptance of everyone who comes through Silliman's portals, regardless of culture, class, or creed. And three, it deepens the spirit of service and widens Silliman students' sense of responsibility to embrace their community, their country, and their planet.
A pleasant morning to all esteemed guests, distinguished speakers, and fellow participants, both here in person and joining us on Zoom and Facebook. It is a great pleasure to welcome you to Silliman University. I am Enrique G, a senior at the Department of Economics of Silliman University, and I will be your host for today's event. We're thrilled to have all of you here with us today. But before we proceed, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge some of the distinguished individuals whose presence makes this gathering all the more meaningful. For the individuals in our online platform, we have Eylla Laire M, the Department of Foreign Affairs Senior Special Assistant and Deputy Undersecretary. Maria Lourdes Leon, Film Export Vice President. Stella Vecina, Local Government Academy Executive Director. Dimna Satigador, Central Philippine University Office of Institutional Advancement Director. Ernie Amorillo, NUPC Undersecretary. Romeo Ongwe, DOST, PSDH MRC Director. Raquel Echague, Board of Investments, Resource-Based Industry Service Director. Gilbert Yago, PIDS Board Trustee, and Cynthia Villena, NEDA Assistant Director. For our participating universities and academies today, we have Asian College, Foundation University, North of Pamplona, Negros Oriental State University Viboran, the Silliman University Divinity grad students, POSCA, Colegio de Santa Catalina de Alejandría, Friends of Environment, Zero Plastics, the Silliman University Institute of Environmental and Marine Society, Sciences, Sigmund State College, and our very own Silliman University. Once again, a pleasant morning to all. As an economics student, one of the foundational principles we learned is how the economy forms the backbone of our society. And this gathering is a significant step forward in our shared journey towards a sustainable future. As we come together today, we celebrate the legacy of the Philippine APEC Study Center Network, a pioneering institution committed to advancing regional cooperation and academic excellence. This brings us today at Silliman University, in collaboration with the Philippine Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Study Network, is honored to present this symposium on circular economies in action, localizing APEC's vision in the Visayas. This is a chance for us to delve into the practical applications of circular economy principles and explore how innovation and digital technologies can catalyze sustainable development in the region. To our distinguished guests, our professional networks, our student participants, colleagues in academia and government work, once again, we welcome you to Silliman University. At this juncture, may I request everyone to rise for the opening prayer to be led by Dr. Jovito J. P, the Silliman University Program Coordinator, and please remain standing for the singing of our national anthem.
Let us bow down our heads and pray. Ever-loving God, we glorify and thank you for showering us with much blessings in your continuous presence in our lives. We are grateful for giving us today, academicians, researchers, students, the opportunity to hold, to listen, and to participate in today's public symposium on circular economy. With this, we humbly ask to shower our speakers with your greatest inspiration so that they may share the most of their knowledge, heart, and soul for their respective topics, and that we too will be able to absorb invaluable knowledge, experience, and put into practice what we learned today. Bless all of us who are present here. All this we pray in the mighty name of Jesus, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, halab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiil, sa lahat
To formally begin this symposium, there are two opening remarks to be delivered by two distinguished individuals. First, to give an opening remark, they are currently serving as the interim vice president for academic affairs and research at Silliman University. With over 25 years of dedicated service at the Silliman University institution, they have held key positions, including chairperson of the psychology department and dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. They are also the current dean of graduate programs. Her extensive postgraduate training includes a leadership fellowship with the United Board for Christian Higher Education in Asia, which allowed her to be mentored by esteemed experts in health and clinical psychology from the University of Australia, and from International Christian University in Tokyo, Japan. This led to her presidency of the Asian Christian Faculty Fellowship in the Village Chapter. Please welcome our very own Dr. Margaret Helen U. Alvarez.
Thank you for the introduction, Alan. For just giving a welcome. Colleagues and friends, good morning. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to this symposium on circular economies. We just signed yesterday an agreement with the Philippine APEC Study Center Network and the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, the PIDS, to formalize the inclusion of Silliman University in the PASCN, which originally was composed of just 10 institutions, including the PIDS. So aside from Silliman University, there is only the University of San Carlos, representing the Visayas in the PASCN. I thank our colleagues in the College of Business Administration and our very own Research and Development Center for spearheading this partnership. Indeed, the objectives of the PASCN resonate well with our own mission and goals as an academic institution for research, collaboration, knowledge production and dissemination, providing thesis support to graduate students doing research on APEC-related issues, and establishing networks and linkages. Today's focus on circular economy for sustainable growth brings us all together to discuss how the Visayas region might contribute to global initiatives in promoting the transition from the traditional linear economy model to a circular one, where the emphasis is on reducing waste, reusing materials, and regenerating natural systems. We at Silliman are particularly concerned about our vulnerability to climate change and issues of waste management. making circular economy a vital and critical framework for sustainable and inclusive growth. You will hear more today about our initiatives, and I look forward to our continuing discussion and collaboration. Welcome to this symposium, and welcome to Silliman University. Good morning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alvarez. That being said, I would like to remind everyone to please keep their cell phones and devices on silent as we proceed with the rest of the program. Now, our next speaker, who will deliver their opening message, may not be with us in person today, but their impact on the world is unmistakable. They are the current president of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, where they have served as a senior research fellow since 1992. He was a professional lecturer at the University of the Philippines School of Economics and a visiting researcher at the Asian Development Bank Institute. His research interests include education, labor market, social protection, demographic economics, and information and communication technologies. He participated in the impact evaluation of programs and policies in education, social protection, judicial reforms, and community-driven development with the Philippine national government agencies and international non-government organizations. He has had a PhD in economics from the University of Philippine School of Economics and a postdoctoral studies at Harvard University. Everyone, let's give a round of applause to Dr. Gutierrez C. Organa Jr. and we can direct your attention on screen.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, and distinguished guests, good morning. It is a pleasure to join you today, albeit virtually, for this important discussion on circular economies in action, localizing APEC's vision in the Visayas. I thank the Philippine APEC Study Center, Silliman University, and everyone involved in organizing this forum. In recent years, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, has strengthened its commitment to sustainability, guided by the Putrajaya Vision 2040, which envisions a resilient, inclusive, and sustainable Asia-Pacific. The APEC Leaders' Declarations 2022 and 2023 have highlighted the circular economy as a vital pathway towards these objectives. Specifically, the 2022 Bangkok Declaration introduced the Biocircular Green or BCG economy model, while the 2023 Golden Gate Declaration broadened this focus, emphasizing the inclusivity and the essential role of micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs. For the Philippines, advancing the circular economy is particularly urgent. Our nation faces significant environmental challenges due to high levels of plastic waste, which negatively impacts our environment and communities. MSMEs, comprising over 99% of businesses, are the backbone of our economy. However, as research from the Philippine Institute for Development Studies has revealed, there is a substantial gap in awareness and capability among these enterprises to adopt circular economy practices. This is specifically evident among women-led MSMEs in Metro Manila, many of which still rely on linear, resource-intensive models contributing to waste generation. Today's forum provides a valuable opportunity to advance these principles and align our efforts with APEC's regional sustainability goals. With its thriving tourism, agriculture, and small business sectors, the Visayas region holds substantial potential to lead by example in developing sustainable business models that serve both our economy and the environment by reducing waste and optimizing resource use. Additionally, APEC's declarations emphasize the importance of empowering women-led enterprises within this framework. Businesses contribute significantly to economic activity and are often key players in community engagement and sustainability practices. In today's discussions, we aim to explore how best to support our MSMEs in embracing these principles. At PIDS, we see the need for a coordinated multi-level approach, from policy advocacy and educational programs to financial incentives and infrastructure for resource recovery. Addressing these areas will help bridge the gap between intention and implementation, enabling MSMEs, including women entrepreneurs, to participate in and benefit from this circular economy practices fully. As we embark on these discussions, let us remember APEC's vision for an inclusive, resilient, and sustainable future. This is a shared responsibility, and today's forum represents a meaningful step toward that goal. I am confident that our collective insights will guide the Visayas and the entire Philippines toward becoming a leader in the transition to a circular economy. Thank you, and I look forward to the discussion ahead.
Okay, so there we have it, just in time. And once again, at this juncture, we are about to hear the keynote talk for this symposium. As mentioned earlier, the Visayas region, with its rich natural resources, supporting tourism, agriculture, and fisheries, is the cornerstone of the Philippines economy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for today. She is a luminary in the field of higher education, renowned for her profound contributions to both academic and social spheres. With a distinguished career spanning over 5 decades, she has held pivotal leadership roles at Silliman University as its first female university president. Her impact extends beyond the Philippine shores as a former key official at the United Board for Christian Higher Education in Asia. She has played a significant role in shaping the landscape of higher education across 13 Asian countries. A dedicated scholar and researcher, she has made substantial contributions to fields such as community engagement, social psychology, and higher education policy. Her work has been recognized nationally and internationally, and she has received numerous awards and honors for exceptional achievements. They and their vision for Silliman University is for the university to serve as the Via Veritas Vita for the nation, Asia, and the rest of the world. She aims to build a whole person education in Silliman's teaching and non-teaching programs and services to ensure that Silliman's leadership and administration demonstrate integrity of purpose, sound fiscal management, and financial stability. Once again, to give her keynote talk, let us give a warm welcome to no other than Dr. Cernol McCann.
Good morning. And let me just say thank you, Enrique, for giving us all the sense of enthusiasm for the activity that we are going to have today. Our partners and delegates to the Philippine APEC Study Network, the Silliman University learners and community partners, the other institutions that are represented here this morning, ladies and gentlemen, once again, good morning. You want to know a flash, or rather theme in your program? The theme is Circular Economies in Action, Localizing APEC Vision in the Visayas. And we all know that here in the Visayas, we are surrounded by bodies of water. And if we have to talk about our
environment and the sustainability of the planet, there is no escaping the fact that our behavior and our tendencies will definitely impact the environment around us. Consider you buying water in a plastic bottle, or buying shampoo and conditioner in sachets, or taking a juice in Tetra Pak, or having items bought in a store or in a mall in a plastic bag. At the end of the day, where do the plastics go? We know they end up somewhere, creating a sea of trash or garbage, not just in Asia and the Pacific, but to plastic waste in the world's oceans. An estimated 35% of plastic marine debris in Southeast Asia is attributed to the Philippines alone, making the country a significant source of plastic pollution in its seas. Consider another scenario: a coconut farm production in our province. We are familiar with the activities in the farm. Coconut meat is extracted, primarily for food preparation, like our favorite halang-halang, and for selling copra. The byproducts, consisting of coconut water, coconut shell, coconut husk, coconut leaves, and stalks, are basically considered of less economic value and simply form part of the farm waste. So what do we have here in the two examples? The reason I brought up these concrete examples is to clearly demonstrate that it is imperative for all of us, people, agencies, governments, to move away from the linear economy to circular economy. In the linear economy, where you have extraction of raw materials or the manufacture of products, then you get to the part where you have non-recyclable waste. Whereas in the circular economy, once raw materials are extracted, the way by which those products are manufactured, used, and recycled contribute to less waste around us, or we hope to have zero waste. So how then can a university or your university that you represent play a role in stimulating the academic community to move from the linear economy model to the perspective of a circular economy? What are some of the components in instruction, in research, our community, and even our own faith orientation and spiritual bearing that can be utilized in the conversion of the linear economy approach to one of a circular economy? Quite a broad set of questions, but let me just present two specific examples of some of the initiatives undertaken here at Silliman University. The first example is working towards a zero waste campus. and perhaps one of the early campuses that engaged in a zero waste campaign. And up to this day, I haven't come across a formal declaration of a move towards zero waste in any other campus. Why don't we have more campuses where we have an audience of young people and faculty members and staff get together and work towards zero waste? So what does it mean to be a zero waste campus? At least from the experience of Silliman University. Silliman University declares zero plastic on campus. No bringing in of bottled water. You bring your own jug or your own container. Also, labels, posters, and information campaigns like the use of tarpaulin is definitely a no-no on this campus. You don't get to see tarpaulin materials here on campus. And we aim for everyone to know how to segregate recyclable, biodegradable, and residual waste. Biodegradables will be collected frequently and returned to nature via composting, vermicomposting, and biodigestion. And the rich compost and vermicast will be used to enrich our soil, and some would go to the farmers. And we also have members of the community buying those organic fertilizers from our biodegradable waste. So we reduce our residual waste, meaning those that will go to the dump site, down to hopefully just 10% of our total waste. And to give heed to all these desired practices, we got our own board of trustees as early as in November of 2018 to adopt our university environmental principles, policies, and guidelines. So we also adopt purchasing policy that reduce waste and plastic. Get to know who the providers are and whether or not these providers engage in a zero waste advocacy. Definitely, we ban sachets and plastic containers inside campus. And all student activity permits includes zero waste plan and commitments. So when we have our big festivals like the Founders Day celebration, any student group that will set up a fair or any other activity, they have to indicate how they are going to manage their waste. And the Silliman cafeteria has gotten rid of single-use plastics. We don't anymore use plastic straws and uses compostable wrappings. Trash bins are color-coded, and our students are bringing in their own reusable bags and drinking containers. In relation to this, since 2019, Silliman has been the only university and among the few in the country to be powered completely by renewable energy through its power supply contract with First Gen Corporation. And in October of 2023, the university signed a memorandum of agreement with Green4, extending the use of renewable energy on campus and reaffirming our commitment to a green and sustainable campus. We
We also have the Energy Development Corporation, that is led by the Global Group, and, in a way, deals with geothermal energy. Another partnership was also struck with Silliman to rescue and secure endangered species in Negros Oriental under the flagship environment program PIDS by establishing an arboretum inside the Silliman Center for Tropical Conservation Studies, or Central, the universe field laboratory grounds in Pilipinas, Valencia, Negros Oriental, to provide a safe haven for long-term survival of the trees. And in that facility, we just don't have the flora, the trees and all the seed development of hardwood species. We also have there the biodiversity program where we have endemic endangered species of spotted deer, the bleeding heart pigeon, the bats, the Philippine crocodile. So if you're interested in those species, those can be seen and you will know more about them up in Pilipinas. So the Silliman EDC Binti Arboretum is really a collection of Philippine threatened tree species to strengthen our niche program on forest biodiversity. And we know that given the situation that we are in and the threats and challenges to the natural environment, we would like to maintain the biodiversity of each habitat so that we will be assured somewhat of the sustainability of those species and organisms. But I must admit that more needs to be done, and the work that we face must be done in a systematic fashion. So, at Silliman University aims to transform, so too must the individual lifestyles of those who are Silliman and those with whom we interact. The second example I'd like to give is re-envisioning cocoa farm developments. As you know, we have our own college of agriculture. And as you go around, our primary crop production is in coconut and rice. We don't have the sugar cane as much compared to the other provinces. So we take care of the produce and the products in our immediate vicinity. Like all other models, circular economy works at various levels, from the personal and household level to the community and wider industry settings. So the impact and the intended outcome, of course, can be significantly felt with the cooperation and collaboration among peoples and institutions. No matter how strong your own organization can be in advocacy, if no support system is in place, all those aims of letting them know will just die down because of no concrete infrastructure to all our advocacy. So currently, there is a proposal in the pipeline for our coconut development projects at Silliman University, especially in Sigaw, Masbate property. And these projects include the shared processing facility for the establishment of a cocoa beets, cocoa choir, and juvenile processing center, as well as devoting 10 hectares for the coconut seed farm development. So it's from the seedling to the harvesting and making sure that we are not just going to get the cocoa leaves or the source of copra, but to make use of the coconut water. Do you notice how expensive coconut water is in Tetra Pak? Or how expensive it is to get your dust rags made of cocoa coir, or the cocoa beads, and all those other byproducts of the coconut. So if we are able to assist our farmers and members of the community, then we can expect a cyclical business economy, so that farmers will be, in a way, induced and be enthusiastic in adopting circular economy. For the shared processing facility, Silliman University cannot just do it on its own, as that is several miles away from here and feet away from here, that's in Masbate. So we make sure that we are in cooperation with the local government of Monreal. And having the facility within the property offers advantages such as easier access to sell the coconut husk and potential road development with the DPWH, which may arise due to the facilities presence. And regarding the seed farm, it will be operated by the Philippine Coconut Authority, another example or illustration of working together in collaboration with agencies that are tasked to do the work anyway. So by working closely with them, we will also be able to help more of our partners in the community. Also, we have a private foundation, a Save Coconut Foundation Incorporated, and many of the members have been scholars, cocoa-fed scholars, we call, of the College of Agriculture. And they have pledged to return service by being involved in this foundation. And this foundation has been commissioned by the Philippine Coconut Authority to support the development of coconut industry in the Philippines, and will help oversee and manage these projects from conception, from ideation to full operation. Thus, what we saw of linear versus circular economy, whether we like it or not, we need to think of the principle of sustainability. APEC circular economy agenda promotes the transition from the traditional linear economic model to a circular one, where the emphasis is on reducing waste, reusing materials, and regenerating natural systems. And this is very much relevant to the Visayas region, where natural resources abound. And as was mentioned earlier, we have resources in fisheries, in tourism, in agriculture. Do you know that every year, an estimated 11.2 billion tons of solid waste are collected worldwide? And the Philippines was estimated to generate 18.05 million tons in 2020 and is expected to reach 23.6 million tons in 2025. So with time, the plastic waste that we see, just look at the Manica River and all those waste and garbage near the shore. In due time, plastic waste releases toxic substances which contain and leach hazardous chemicals, including endocrine disruptive chemicals that can cause cancer, diabetes, reproductive disorders, and neurological impairments of developing fetuses and children. So what the fish will eat, the microplastics, will also be ingested by us who eat fish. And if we're not going to do something about this practice, then we will likely be subjected to this kind of health impairment. The environment crisis we face today is very much a product of how we have developed as a society. The overconsumption of resources, waste management issues, and the challenges climate change poses make the circular economy a critical framework for ensuring sustainable growth. So we need to work hand in hand as private, government, and academic sectors in coming up with a framework that translates into actionable plans for the Visayas region. Circularity also entails closing material loops by redesigning manufacturing processes, materials, products, and systems to eliminate waste at all stages. A circular economy uses clean production methods and clean energy to make consumable products that can safely return to the biosphere and durable products that are intended for multiple reuse and remanufacturing. So, with the two examples of the circular economy promise and the Silliman University Environmental Initiative, I must also emphasize the people's participation and collaboration have helped us in several other initiatives on campus, like those related to freshwater bodies and oceans. We have done river monitoring. Silliman, through Dr. Alcala, has pioneered the construction of artificial reefs. Dr. Alcala also popularized the 25% solution in an island, where he says, in an island like Ako, if 25% of the shore and the near shore go towards the sea will be protected, that would help the 75% of the other parts of the sea. So just say 25% so that we can continue to help the total 75%. Or advocacy to know the reclamation and got to see our friends of the environment from Negros Oriental. We are not always successful, but that is not a cause for us to just hold our arms and do nothing and say nothing about these developments. We are also for the protection of marine sanctuaries. I just wrote the urging and enthusiasm of our community partners to the Secretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources about this activity of setting up a jetty port in Bangko Island, which can cause destruction in the marine sanctuary, and also affect the livelihood participation of the community members because of the coming in of other business people into the community. So in a way, the locals are deprived of the small scale tourism economy with the bringing in of tourists in jetty loads. And then the income goes to the operator of the businesses. For the marine biodiversity projects, which we continue to do, and our irrigation and canal sanitation as areas for the university to continue its work on. And as to land-based initiatives, I mentioned about our captive breeding project, like spotted deer, the warty pigs, or the bleeding heart region, and to endemic fauna species. Others would be the bass around us. We're familiar with bass, where bass actually help us in fruiting, for example, as they move from one tree to another. They actually help us in the natural cycle in our own fauna. So endemic plants and tree species for the future generation of our forest require seedling and farm nursery so that we have available materials to regenerate our bases. And as to air, monitoring air pollution, planting trees to offset carbon emissions, and the like. Again, do you know that managers our own breathing process all through our lifetime? We need to be responsible in planting at least 40 trees. So as of today, you're 20 years old, how many trees have you planted? So that you can recover and help the earth regain its carbon dioxide oxygen cycle. So, for the concluding statement, we know that it is easier said than done. And indeed, there are challenges to implementation. Transitioning to a circular economy requires a shift in economic or consumer behavior, a shift in corporate business strategy, and a shift in regulatory frameworks. Circular practices must be integrated into every level of production, from design to end of life management, requiring collaboration across industries and sectors. Also, governments need to implement supportive policies, such as this is now being discussed, on the extended producer responsibility or EPR, and providing incentives for sustainable practices. Like, who pays for pollution? Should it be the consumer, or should the responsibility be on the producer? And so that is being looked into in more detail. There may be some policy framework that can be arrived at to ensure that there will be minimization of waste. So we need to adopt new ways of thinking and doing, especially with the advent of innovation and technology. So we heard of technologies like blockchain and Internet of Things that can improve traceability in supply chain, making it easier to recycle and reuse materials. When you have a non-functioning technological device, where does that device go? Or if you have a non-functioning refrigerator, where does that refrigerator go? Like, how are we dealing with our waste? And now with the advent of technology, how are we prepared to deal with e-waste? So innovation in biodegradable materials, modular design, and repairability are key enablers of the circular economy. Rather than you buy something, it bugs down, you throw it away. But if we have repair services, who can really help us with making our items and devices or appliances work for a long period of time, then we contribute to the minimization of waste and the problems that we get to planet Earth. So sustainable systems need to be powered by renewable energy sources to truly support long-term environmental goals. We then must heed the call to action. As members of a government, business, and civil society, we must work together to build circular systems, or encourage policies that promote recycling, reduce waste, and incentivize sustainable products and services. Would that qualify Dumaguete City, the place for all that we like to say, as being part in this circular system, where we don't necessarily waste all of those clothes coming from other countries, we use them or we use them and process and be able to feel good with those items. So every person then has a role to play by making sustainable choices in our daily lives. So what's in it for us? So the circular economy empowers us, consumers, to make sustainable choices, such as renting or buying second-hand products, or sustainable products that are durable and repairable and provide longer-lasting benefits for communities, ensuring that resources are distributed more fairly. Also, reducing pollution and promoting sustainable practices can lead to healthier environments, improving overall public health. Notice that in all of those items that I shared with you, those items depend so much on individual choices and the practices that we engage in. So I'd like to circle back to a university community. If we are faculty members, how do we put our principles, our texts into use by encouraging our students to be engaged in circular economy? If we are in research, how are we using our research publications into contributing toward circular economy? and how we in our community engagement practice advocacy so that we will be able to bring in more doers than simply talkers. And finally, the transition to a circular economy is not just a necessity for sustainability, but an opportunity for innovation, economic resilience, and a healthier planet. And by embracing circularity, we can create a future that thrives within our home, our own planet that now already has ecological limits. Let's think about all those and see what we can do to make our Earth a better place to live in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President McCann. Philippines has already taken important steps towards its goals, and now we have the opportunity to advance a bit further, benefiting both our university and the wider region. So I'm certain that after all the insightful discussions, our minds are fully engaged and ready for the dialogue ahead.
But to elevate our spirits, we're delighted to present a special intermission from one of our own. Please allow me to welcome Miss Princess Antoinette Tesano.
Good morning, everyone. This is Fly Me to the Moon by Frank Sinatra. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, kiss me, fill my heart with song, and let me sing forevermore. You are all I know, for all I worship and adore. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, I love you. La 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 la. La 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 I love you. Sing, fly me to the moon and let me play. Stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. In other words, I love you.
Wow, for sure, after hearing her angelic voice, everyone is refreshed, even with the technical difficulties on her mic. A transcended iyang tingog. So, at this point, we will expand further this academic conversation into 3 presentations to be followed by a panel discussion. To encourage active participation, we invite everyone, especially those who are in our online platforms, to submit your questions through the comment section, and your thoughtful inquiries will be addressed during the question and answer session after the panel discussion. Now, this session will be moderated by the current chair of the Department of Economics of the University of San Carlos. Ladies and gentlemen, and everybody in the spectrum, let's give a round of applause to the moderator, Dr. Julius Pagos. Dr. Julius, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. So, I hope you have had your watching break before we start with the series of presentations this morning. We will have 3 presentations this morning. Each presentation will be allotted a 20-minute time period. So we remind the speakers to please keep your presentation within the 20 minutes. And after all 3 presenters have presented their presentations, I will ask the presenters to please take a seat in front, and the audience will have the opportunity to ask questions. I hope you do ask questions, because if there's no question from the audience, then it means I will be forced to ask questions. All right. So for our first presentation, it will be on assessing the adoption of circular economy among women-led MSMEs in Metro Manila, a pilot study by Mr. Jovito Jose P. Mr. Katigbak is a senior international finance specialist at the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and a lecturer at the De La Salle University. He was a chief research officer, Blue Economies Study Group at the Center for International Relations and Strategic Studies of the Philippine Foreign Service Institute. He undertakes policy-oriented research and analysis on trade and development-related matters under the International Trade and Economics section. Mr. Katigbak has published articles on ASEAN integration, Philippine trade policy, internet economy, and sustainable development. Mr. Katigbak has a degree on Master of Arts in Development Policy from the De La Salle University. He graduated magna cum laude in the Consular and Diplomatic Affairs program of the De La Salle College, De La Salle College of St. Benil. He has participated in various local and international conferences and seminars focusing on international relations and development. Mr. Katigbak is also a part-time faculty member of De La Salle University, Manila, Political Science and Development Studies Department, and Far Eastern University, Manila, International Studies Department. Without further ado, may I call on Mr. Katigbak to give us his first presentation.
Maayong buntag sa inyong lahat. I hope I said that correctly. No? Good morning in English. My name is Jovito Jose P. I usually get mistaken for an older gentleman. As a matter of fact, when we were welcomed here, as they were looking for Jovito Katigbak, I think they were looking at Dr. Julius, no? And I was perceived as Julius instead, no? But it's fine. It's my name, Jovito Katigbak. I used to work for the Foreign Service Institute of the Department of Foreign Affairs. I worked there for 10 years. I currently am working now at the Bangko Sentral of Pilipinas as a finance specialist. But on my spare time, or during my spare time, I teach at De La Salle University. I'm already not affiliated with Far Eastern University because of workload. No, I have to prioritize my work with BSP now and with De La Salle University. But before I begin my presentation, I'd just like to thank the Philippine APEC Study Center Network as well as the Silliman University for hosting this roadshow, if I'm not mistaken. I'll be presenting our paper, which was published in 2023. This is downloadable over the internet. We also have a policy note, which is much shorter and much more digestible for everyone. So I have here, I hope this is working. There. Okay, this is the outline of my presentation. It has, I believe, 6 parts, but I won't go over them tediously because for some of which President Betty has already talked about it, the concept of it, as well as the importance of the circular economy. So I'll just focus on the last 3 parts of my presentation. And so without further ado, allow me to proceed with the introduction. As mentioned during the opening of Dr. Babes or Beta of PIDS, there have been several initiatives at both the regional and the local levels pertaining to circular economy. So the basic point is that there is momentum towards the adoption of circular economy. The problem is, where are we in terms of the actual implementation and actual adaptation of circular economy? At the APEC level, you have the Putrajaya Vision 2040. You also have the Aotearoa Action Plan. And at the ASEAN level, you have other initiatives, no? But in 2023, it was very important. 2022 and 2023 were vital years because these were the years wherein Thailand took helm of APEC and ASEAN at the same time. Thailand is well known for its advocacy and initiative of advancing the Bangkok, the BCG as they call it, the Circular Green Economy Model. And the idea of the circular economy heavily draws from the concepts and principles advanced by Thailand. But that doesn't mean to say that Thailand has a monopoly on the circular economy. Circular economy, not to be mistaken, is an international movement, okay? And it is very much important for not only APEC region, but also for the Philippines. At the ASEAN level, we have the Framework for Circular Economy for the ASEAN Economic Community and the ASEAN Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. ASEAN is also developing a work program to support the implementation of the framework. Now, in the Philippines, as mentioned by President Benny, we have been producing a lot of wastes. Now, as a matter of fact, at least 61,000 million metric tons are produced daily, and 24% are plastic waste. The question is, where do these plastic wastes go? How do we discard them? And how do we, try to ensure that the wastes that are shown into different parts of the Philippines do not end up in places where they're not supposed to end? And of course, have a negative impact not only on our society, but also on our environment, as well as on our well-being. Now, if you look into the details, majority of the businesses in the Philippines are what we call micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Meaning, ito yung mga maliliit na businesses. No? The mom-and-pop shops, the sari-sari stores, or those stores which have number of employees and a certain amount of asset size. The primary question that we're trying to address in this study is, how do we ensure that circular economy principles are integrated into the policies and operations of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in Metro Manila? But to make it more specific, we focus on women-led MSMEs. Why women-led MSMEs? Because when you look at the data, 60% of new registrations of businesses are attributed to women or women-led businesses. What does that mean? Majority of the businesses that are being created now and are being managed are run or led by women. No, it is also one of our contributions in advancing women-led studies, at least in the Philippine setting, or at least the Philippine APEC Study Center Network. This is a statement of the problem and of the objectives. Yeah, sige. I'll just flash them quickly, no? But again, the goal is to gauge where are the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in Metro Manila in terms of adopting circular economy principles. What are they doing? What are the challenges, and how can we move forward? Okay, this is the concept of the circular economy. As the figure suggests, it's a circular economy, meaning there's no linear approach. There are no wastes that are wasted per se, and meaning everything that is discarded is put back into the cycle. That's why it is circular. There's a technical definition here, but I won't go over them because President Betty has comprehensively talked about circular economy. And so allow me to move into this diagram presented or at least developed by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is more representative of what circular economy is. If you can see on your screens, I don't know if you can see this clearly, but you have two cycles there. On the left side, you have there the what we call the biological cycle. And the idea is that everything that waste that are produced, you put them back into the biological cycle through composting and anaerobic digestion. On the other hand, you have here the technical cycle, which talks about refurbishing, remanufacturing, recycling. All of those that relates to the use of technologies and application of technical know-how to loop into the cycle of all of these wastes. Okay. In terms of the benefits of the circular economy, there are plenty in terms of individual, societal, and even global. But to give you a more comprehensive definition of, the circular economy, let me just read this on the lower portion of your screen. Circular economy describes an economic system that is based on business models, which replace the end-of-life concept with reducing, alternatively reusing, recycling, and recovering materials in production, distribution, and consumption processes. In terms of the benefits of the circular economy, flash on your screen. In the Philippine context, House Bill 7609 defines circular economy as a system approach wherein products are designed for durability, meaning eco-design, reuse and recyclability, and materials for new products come from old products. It minimizes waste and maximizes the use of natural resources. Okay, the clicker is not working correctly. So if I may ask the operator to please move to the earlier slide, please. One more slide. There. Okay, this is the drivers and barriers of circular economy. It's important to know what drives and what hinders the adoption of circular economy. In terms of barriers, in terms of drivers, we have policy and economy, the importance of health, importance of environmental protection, societal push, as well as the development of products. Next slide, please. In terms of the barriers, we have government issues, economic issues, technological concerns, and lack of reliable information to the enterprises, meaning knowledge and skill issues. Next slide, please. Other barriers include management issues, framework issues, cultural and social issues, and market issues. In terms of the adoption of circular economy among MSMEs, when we looked at the literature, there have been several initiatives, not only in the Philippines, but also in Europe and Asia. Next slide, please. As a matter of fact, in Asia, China is considered as a leader in terms of circular economy adoption because of several laws, policies, and practices that have been adopted at the national, regional, and city levels. Japan is also cited as a leader in terms of circular economy adoption, mainly because of the mainstreaming of what we call a whole society approach, wherein everyone is involved. It's not only a government issue, but it's also a societal issue. In the Philippines, there are very minimal studies concerning circular economy adoption among MSMEs, mainly because whenever we try to reach out to MSMEs, there is their aversion to answer surveys, mainly because they don't see the benefit of answering surveys, as well as many of them don't really see the need to address or to advance their concerns, because for them, government initiatives only focus on bigger corporations. Next slide, please. In terms of the landscape of policies in the Philippines, the overall framework is what we call the Philippine Action Plan for Sustainable Consumption and Production, which is based on Sustainable Development Goal number 12, which is primarily the main gist of circular economy in the Philippines, which is sustainable production and consumption. Next slide, please. When we also look at several information, data available over the internet and through our secondary view, we've seen that there are at least 6 types of initiatives being implemented in the Philippines. So the bottom line is there are initiatives. The question is, there are 6, at least 6 clusters, as we call it. No? The first relates to education, information, and awareness. Second, collaboration platforms. Third, business support schemes. Next slide, please. There. Fourth, public procurement and infrastructure. Fifth, regulatory frameworks. And the last, fiscal frameworks. The bottom line is that there are initiatives, and these initiatives are advanced by not only the government, but also by non-governmental organizations, private sector. The question is, how do we ensure that all of these initiatives are coherent and are advanced under a specific framework? Next slide, please. Despite the presence of these initiatives, many of the activities that we have can be characterized as piecemeal, ad hoc, and reactive to the flavor of the times. Meaning, we do these things because there's a call momentarily, and then momentum is lost. That's why when you look at legal initiatives as well as measures, only 1 out of 415 circular economy related bills and resolutions have successfully heard of the Philippine Congress. The one lucky bill is the EPR Act, or the Extended Producer Responsibility Act. Next slide, please. In terms of the conceptual framework of the study, this is it. As I told you, the paper is available online. So I will go over the conceptual framework. Next slide, please. The methodology is that we basically did reach out to MSMEs. We gave them a survey. We asked them to answer it. We reached out to all cities in Metro Manila. Unfortunately, we only received around 60 respondents. And to give you an idea, that 60 is very high. Because when we reach out to the DTI and to other government agencies, the concern is the same. They really have problems reaching out to micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. And majority of the issues stem from the fact that for MSMEs, they really don't believe that a survey will help them in terms of advancing their cause. So, but that is our goal. That is our objective, to highlight the importance of research, as well as advancing policy objectives, policy options. That is based on evidence. That is founded in evidence-based research. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And we now proceed to the results and analysis, which I think would be of interest to the majority of you. In terms of the profile of the respondents, majority of them are micro. When we say micro, it's based on the definition of the PSA, meaning the number of employees. No? And 93.1% of the respondents are micro. The remaining are small and medium firms. Majority of them are young, 18 to 35 years old, while 29.3% are 36 to 65 years old, and the remaining 3.4% are 65 years old. Mind you, these are women. Okay, women respondents. Around 81% of them are highly educated, who possess baccalaureate and post degrees, with the remaining 19% having primary, secondary vocational diplomas. Next slide, please. Majority of the respondents come from Manila City, followed by Quezon City, Caloocan, and Makati. Unfortunately, we did not receive any participants from San Juan, Navotas, Pateros, and Valenzuela City. Next slide, please. In terms of the awareness of circular economy principles, as flashed on your screen, there is actually different levels of understanding about circular economy. 36.2% have a basic understanding of what is circular economy and are interested to learn more about the topic, while 22.4% have heard it but lack a full understanding of what it really is. Only 8.6% have a clear understanding of the circular economy. Next slide, please. In terms of their internal dynamics as well as the initiative to incorporate circular economy, majority have said that they really haven't done any assessment or evaluation in terms of the alignment between their operations as well as circular economy principles. So meaning there's no alignment. Maybe because of the fact that a lot of them don't really know what are the benefits of circular economy. They have no intention of learning about it because for many MSMEs, when you talk about circular economy, it doesn't bring more profits. Okay? They really are unfamiliar with government projects. So for them, circular economy is a foreign concept. Okay? But when we talk about circular economy, the more you read about it, the more you learn about it, it's basically the application of basic principles of recycling, refurbishing, remanufacturing. No? So I think it's very important for us to simplify what really is circular economy and to bring it closer to the grassroots level. Okay? Because many of them haven't done any assessment, when we looked at the operations, there is really no alignment with circular economy principles. That's problematic. Meaning because majority of them still use the linear approach. Next slide, please. In terms of the awareness of government-related programs, majority are unfamiliar, okay, with any government initiatives related to circular economy. As a matter of fact, 43.1% say that they did not receive any government support, okay, in terms of circular economy. And that 27.6% describe government guidance as poor. Notably, no respondent characterized government support as excellent. And that's alarming because no single MSMEs looked at the government and their initiatives and exclaimed that, no, this is a very good model. No, that means really, they're really unfamiliar with what the government is doing. Next slide, please. As I talked to you a while ago, because there is no understanding, there is no deep knowledge of what circular economy is, there are actually no CE components in the strategy. And that is concerning. Why? Because if you do operations on a daily basis, as much as you want to have short-term gains, which is a myopic view, the long-term sustainability of your operations, as well as your products, as well as its contributions to society, would be put into jeopardy. And mind you, when you talk about MSMEs, these are 99.6% of all businesses in the Philippines. Madami yan. So, kung gusto mo talaga magkaroon ng bago, start from the very bottom. Or at least those businesses that are heavily involved. No? Especially those that are involved in the daily operations. Ito yung mga businesses na araw-araw kailangan magbenta, nakapag-interact sa mga customers. Next slide, please. When we asked them about the importance of circular economy for their business sustainability and success, majority said that we don't really see it as paramount to the sustainability of our business. We don't see it as important component to our success. So there's really low adoption of CE among them. Next slide, please. In terms of post-sale services, meaning these are services afforded after you buy something. No? Halimbawa ako, bumili ako sa isang tindera. Okay? If there's any concern, I can take it back. I can give them the waste back. No? These are what we call post-sale services. Unfortunately, for many business owners, it's not applicable to them. Kasi yung mga binibenta nila, these are one-time use. No? I sell it to you, you throw it away. If you bring it back to me, I wouldn't know what to do with it. Or I will just throw it away as well. No? Because majority of the products are single-use or for linear usage. No? You take it, you consume it, and then you throw it away. Next slide, please. An overwhelming majority also of MSMEs, women-led MSMEs, understandably do not use renewable energy sources, solar, wind, geothermal. Kasi karamihan ginagamit yung coal, very non-renewable energy sources because it's cheap, it's accessible. Okay? But you see some prices in certain parts of Manila, you'd be seeing different vendors with solar panels. No? And this is an important development, but we'd like to see it everywhere. Very important kasi it's clean and you don't need to charge it. You don't need to spend too much because you're using solar or wind, if ever for that matter. No? Okay. Majority of WMSMEs also have little to no knowledge, experience, and application of eco-design principles. Eco-design principles are very important because it's basically the creation of products that are eco-friendly. Again, for many women-led MSMEs, they don't know how to design it because they don't have the technical know-how and the technology to do it. Okay? Understandably, 91.4% don't have reveal that they don't have patents related to circular economy. Next slide, please. And this is the last part of the findings, which talks about partnerships and collaborations. We actually added this in the survey because when we asked them, do you partner with other firms in terms of circular economy related initiatives? And the overwhelming answer was that we are not active. Actually, 81% of them are not active in collaborating with external partners. They also explain that many of the companies operate in silos. Okay, I'll just wrap this up. It shows that my time is up. So I'll just wrap it up because I'm nearing my conclusion and recommendations. Another concern here is that majority of the MSMEs do not collaborate with customers. I sell this to you, you buy this from me, that's the end of our transaction. You want to buy from me again, that's it. But there's no circular economy approach that is being implemented. Okay, to sum up my presentation, to conclude, next slide please. Basically, it's good. There are both positive and negative aspects found by our study, one of which the imperative to advance circular economy comes from the very top, from our president himself, none less than Bongbong Marcos, no? Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. in his 2023 SONA. If you also look at the Philippine Development Plan from 2023 to 2028, there is recognition that circular economy / sustainable consumption production is very important. So again, there is imperative at the top. For its part, the Philippine government, along with specifically through its several line agencies, DNR, DTI, PTTC, would be very important in advancing the initiatives that are already in place and in advancing, of course, several legal measures as well. However, when we did the study, next slide, please. Okay. When we did the study, we found out that there's still a lot of work to be done. Marami pa rin women-led MSMEs ang hindi nakakaalam sa konsepto at ang kailangan bigyan natin ng idea at tulong kung paano gawin ito. Now, next slide please. To basically advance circular economy effectively, you have identified policy actions in 3 levels in our study. And the idea is that you apply them simultaneously. We call this the multi-governance approach. We take inspiration from China's model because China has a model that it calls hierarchy model and experimentation under hierarchy. There is the top to bottom approach, but they're given leeway to innovate in terms of their initiatives at the local levels. These are the policy recommendations. Can you go back, please? At the micro level, of course, it's important for DNR and BPI to focus on education campaigns and advocacies to raise the current level of awareness about key principles. The government may also provide incentives and business support schemes to women-led MSMEs to address challenges withholding them from the uptake of circular economy. DNR and the OST may issue certificates, awards to encourage the greater adoption of circular economy among women-led MSMEs. Lastly, you have, of course, social media. You have platforms, digital platforms to advance what circular economy is. And I think, for example, in this case, this forum held online and through Zoom, held online and face-to-face is an important way to share what circular economy is. Next slide, please. In terms of meso, when we talk about meso, we're talking about the creation of eco parks. We're talking about the creation of clusters of businesses wherein they can collaborate and advance circular economy. It will be some sort of a network sharing wherein the role of government is to regularly check in. Okay, regularly check in and advance smart regulation. When you talk about smart regulation, you talk about creating regulations that are adaptive and also innovative. And my last slide is about macro initiatives. We talk about macro, the more national level, okay? And one, of course, one initiative that we would like to see is the creation of a national framework on circular economy. Because despite the presence of many initiatives, we really don't have a national framework. The EPR Act is not the circular economy law per se. It's only an it's an act relating to extended producer responsibility. We don't have still a national framework. In terms of the creation of national framework, it is important for the national government to identify what type of framework do we need to create. Is it 10 years? Is it 6 years? Is it 5 years? Why? Because technology changes very fast. There's a lot of innovations. And if law cannot keep up with the technologies and innovations, then as much as it is beautifully designed and implemented today, it may prove to be ineffective and outdated in the next 5 to 10 years. No? So if you're going to have a framework, there must be some sort of a review clause where you can adopt the basic guidelines of the framework. And the last, of course, is if you really want to measure progress, you need to identify metrics. You need to have a monitoring tool. Where are we in terms of circular economy? Because circular economy is a very comprehensive concept. At least for the Philippines, it's imperative to identify what are we really measuring. In terms of women-led MSMEs, what are we really looking into? Because if you can do that, then you can come up with effective and targeted policy interventions. No? I think that is my last slide. And of course, this is my ending, which is thank you, no? I think in your language, it's nagang salamat. I look forward to the questions. I'm sorry if I went over time. And I hope you learned something or two. Again, the paper is downloadable online. And thank you very much. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Katigbak, for the presentation. It appears that the Philippines has a long road ahead in terms of aligning business operations, particularly among MSMEs, and the principles of the circular economy. So I hope that the body is listening to the presentation and hopefully that you can contribute to your questions during the open forum, throwing some ideas on how we can move forward on improving our state of adoption of the principles of the circular economy. So moving on to the second presentation, the title is on circular economy in Philippine tourism and industry, tourism and hospitality. And the presenter is Dr. Eylla. My apologies if I mispronounce your name. Eylla Laire M. Gutierrez. Dr. Gutierrez is a development consultant and the associate director at the Asian Institute of Management's Dr. Andrew L. Tan Center for Tourism. She also serves as a fellow of the Roichi Sasakawa Young Leaders Fellowship, Japan. She previously served as the Gender and Sustainable Tourism Consultant of the Philippine Center for Environmental Protection and Sustainable Development Incorporated, Senior Consultant at Warwick and Rogers, and as the Sustainable Tourism Specialist of the Masumi Geo Reserve Foundation Incorporated. She has been engaged in several commissioned research projects in partnership with the University of Auckland, Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, the Department of Tourism, and the Philippine APEC Study Network. She has completed her Doctor of Philosophy degree in Asia Pacific Studies at the Ritsu Meikan Asia Pacific University, Japan, and recognized with Outstanding Dissertation Award, NA in Development Policy under KAS Scholarship, and BA International Studies major in European Studies magna cum laude at De La Salle University, Philippines. Her research interests include sustainability, community development, gender studies, and tourism management. Presenting to us circular economy in Philippine tourism, let me now call on Dr. Gutierrez.
Oh, yes. There's a reason why I'm holding a separate microphone, because in a bit I'll be moving around if you don't mind. So first of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Julius. I know it's been like a tongue twister from my name to all my affiliations. So thank you very much. I hope that awakened people a bit, right? So again, there you go, my slides are up. So again, magandang umaga. Maayong buntag sa inyong tanan. Good morning to everyone. I am Eylla Gutierrez, and today it is my pleasure to talk about something that's pretty much very close to my heart, which is tourism and hospitality. And I think this is a valuable space to be in, because who here believes that Dumaguete is a great tourism destination? A raise of hands, please. Yes, right? And who here have experienced becoming tourists at one point in their lives? You don't think you've been tourists at all? Like for some of us, I feel like everyone had experiences of being tourists. I hope you don't mind if I walked around. So yeah, I think this is a valuable opportunity to talk about something that has been hammered on by the previous speakers that we have. So we all know for a fact we're kind of vomiting already with the thought of circular economy, right? I feel like that circulating the economy to our mind at this point. So let me brief you a bit. Okay. So in this session, next please, this is not working. So for this presentation, I'll be talking about two things. Personal choices, the choices that we are making. And second, how does it actually connect to what businesses could offer? And I will do that by talking about the experiences in the hospitality and tourism industry. Next slide, please. Okay, so can you please just keep on? Is it working? Okay, so let's try to make it work. So I feel like a couple of times in the stay here instead. So I'll do that or just remove this. Sorry. Oh, there you go. Good morning. Okay, perfect. So in the next few slides I'm sharing with you, I'll talk about different approach to circular economy. I know you're tired of hearing linear economy versus circular economy, but what does it actually mean for someone who has no idea what it is, how you can actually apply it? And then afterwards, I'll directly go to the cases wherein we could see how industries, the hospitality and tourism industry actually apply circular economy. And I'll bounce back the question to you guys. What kind of practices are you willing to take on in terms of circular economy? Again, with the mindset that you're tourists, right? When you're tourists, you don't really care so much about the environment because you're enjoying, right? So I guess that's the challenge that we're trying to hurdle on as we move forward. So my first question is, are you open? I don't know why you are shy to answer. You open. I'm not gonna sell you a product. Don't worry. I'm not a business person who would tell you open-minded ka ba? So are you guys open-minded in this room? Yes? I think that's the first step actually in looking at circular economy because most of the time, a lot of us are in. Next slide, please. Okay. A lot of us are in charge of, a lot of us are stuck in what we call tunnel visions, wherein we just see one way of doing things. And as much as we'd like to get ahead of it, And as much as we want to accept the fact that, okay, probably I'm not into tunnel visions, but the reality is we might be. And this goes to show in terms of our flexibility and the choices that we are making. So the reason why I ask you open-minded, are you open-minded, is because at least for the next few minutes or the next hours that we will be here in this symposium, we could open our minds into the idea that there could be other ways that we can go about things or the decisions that we make every day. And I think this is the perfect timing. I know it's been 2 years since the pandemic. And when did we start hearing about circular economy? Basically, just years ago, but now it's being reiterated again and again because the reality is the pandemic showed us that things have to change. We cannot stay in the same thinking, the same mindset, the same decisions, the same actions that we used to make before, right? So this is the high time to actually rethink of what circular economy actually means for us. So is it me who's controlling it or is God controlling it for me? You're clicking it? Sorry, no. Try it again. Am I pointing at the Sorry, where? See, thank you guys, thank you. I look stupid up front. There you go. Okay, so now that we try to get rid of those tunnel visions, I want us to see like, whoosh, a different reality, right? So again, let's start with a blank slate. Let's think about not hearing what we heard about circular economy in the beginning and ask ourselves, what do we mean actually by circular economy? When we say, what's the first thing that comes? A cycle, there's no end. It's circle, basically, right? And what happens in a circle is that, this looks weird, I'm just gonna stay here. I hope nobody takes a photo doing this. But yeah, circular economy, basically, it's a circle, right? What happens in a circle? Keeps going and going. And again, my point here is to not give you the theoretical concepts of circular economy. Because next time, when you think about it, it's from the word circle, right? What you put out just comes back in the loop. You don't need any more highfalutin words. It's really just that. What we put out comes back to us. And I think that very much relates with the idea of the choices that we're making, which is circular economy is really just about the choices that we're making. The choices we put out actually comes back to us in a circle, right? So going deeper into that, once I perfect this, I feel like, do I still have time? So within the realm, again, circular economy, what we put out comes back to us. Putting it in the framework of the term sustainability, it really is just about thinking of the other ways wherein, again, no, the linear aspect wherein we think for a second that, okay, probably natural resources are finite, but the reality is that they're not, right? So again, I'm brushing through these because I want to focus more on the cases. And we probably talked about this, right? The linear versus circular. But what I want to highlight is this, that the reality is that it's about choices that we're making. It's about looking at, there's a point. It's about looking at, for example, how do we decide every day? Do we use plastics or paper bags? Do we use our own things? Do we use things versus using things up? A raise of hands, who among you have been tempted when you're booked in a hotel to just keep the air condition open even if you're not using it? It's okay. Jean is raising her hands out loud, like very proud. It's fine. And again, it's about reflection. It's about the choices that we're making. It's circular economy is about using things versus using them up and acknowledging that that's the choices that we're making. Right? Who among you, last na, kasi nakaka-relate kayo, who among you hoarding the tiny bottles of shampoo stuff? Right? Diba? So yes, we admit to all of that. But again, when we talk about circular economy, it's really about the choices, the decisions that you're making when you are not pressured to think about it. Because you're on a vacation, why would you think about circular economy, right? But the reality is it's about the decisions you're making every single time. And finally, the idea of circular economy is that there's no such thing as waste. And I know it sounds kind of weird, but in the next cases that I will show you, you'll be amazed at how creative people can be. So I'll skip through that because basically that's how the heads of the pineapple are being used as a leather or okay. So now you might be wondering, easy to actually, I just keep pressing. Oops. It's easy to think about the application of circular economy in the manufacturing, right? Because the waste, you turn it into a byproduct. Or it's easy to think about it in the retail because you just get rid of stuff. But when you talk about tourism and hospitality, it's quite a bit more difficult because again, you're dealing with people like who are hoarding stuff in the hotels, people like us who are turning on the air conditioning units even if we're not using it. We're people who prefer to not mind the impact of their actions, right? So the challenge now here is how do we incorporate circular economy into the experiences of tourists, of those of the hospitality sector without diminishing the quality of it, right? So basically, this is what the spectrum is showing us, that the tourism idea of it is that it's not just about the hotel, right? It's not just about the food, but it's how you experience it, how you feel about it, right? So let's breeze through some of the cases that we can learn from. First, you're familiar with intercontinental hotels, right? So I'll start first with the big ones, international groups. So what they do is that they're very much engaged that all of their hotels, they've established this system, like a digital technological system where literally they could track and monitor the kinds of processes and procedures that they're doing to adopt to circular economy. It's kind of basic, that's kind of like a very macro level thinking, just applying this system for everyone to see. Let's go a bit deeper. This other hotel, the Hoxton Hotels, again, it's a chain of hotels, but now it's a bit deeper in a sense that when you look at the photo here, for example, you would notice that the items are mismatched, right? Usually in hotels, you would see that they're all fancy, all like in white or whatever. But here, in this brand of hotels, they take pride in using vintage furniture. They're refurbishing things. And even the building here, this used to be an IBM building in Brussels, but now they converted it instead of demolishing and reconverting it to something else. They converted it to the actual hotel, right? Another way of doing that is because they know that aviation, when people engage in airplanes and traveling from one city to another, it costs a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. They actually give incentives for people, like a 20 euro off in their hotel rates, just to encourage people to take trains instead of planes, right? And here they connected even with e-bikes to encourage their guests to go around not in Uber or whatever. And finally, they even connect to local communities, giving the refurbished linens, beds, mattresses, and converting it to that. So I guess what I'm showing you here is that the ways people practice circular economy could go beyond the aspect of waste of recycling. It's also about managing the thinking or the mindsets of people staying. Next is the greenhouse. So again, quickly, just run through it. So quickly, again, the Greenhouse Hotel, there covers the greenest hotel in UK. You can start Googling it if you have internet. So basically, everything in this house is made of wood that came from fallen trees, right? So sana all may fallen trees recycle, right? So, and of course, obviously, the ones that we already are aware of, solar panels, electric vehicles, and upcycled materials. But here, what I would like to highlight is that their effort, it's not always easy to source from local people, but their effort, for example, the milk that they give in the breakfast buffet are those that come in bottles and pints from local sellers. And the bar that they have, they only offer locally produced alcohol. So I mean, those little things that actually take a lot of time and a lot of effort, that's something that's commendable, definitely. So you might be asking, will I just be showing you some foreign brands? Of course not, right? In the Philippines, there are some examples, actually. So have you heard of Matsugi G Reserve? Yes. Have you been here? Wanting to go here? Okay, so for those of you who actually want or have tried, tempted to go here, you can check it now. In their website, when you open Matsugi G Reserve and you try to get a booking, the thing that would appear there is it's not booked now, it's not reserved now. It says request a visit. And what does that messaging tell us? It actually flips the script that, okay, yes, you can pay. Yes, you can go to us, but wait, you are requesting a permission from us, just allowing you to go. Thereby, you will follow whatever rules we give you. Does that make sense? Instead of us saying, book now, okay, I'm just gonna pay. I'm gonna use up whatever it is because I'm paying, I'm booking. So requesting a visit kind of bit and saying that, wait lang, I actually requested for a visit and I got granted a request and access. So that's kind of frames the mindset of visitors, right? So here, I work at a sustainability program, ooh, it's so here, if you could look at the spider web, this is a famous feature that they have. Literally, none of these steel actually touches the limestones. And that's just how innovative they are. But what makes great sense about it is that it talks about circular economy in a more personal aspect. I have 5 minutes left. I'm going to rush through that. Yes. So here, they talk about, the people that are here, actually, they call it park rangers, and they're actually the ates and kuyas who actually live in the, and who would tell you specifically what this flower is, what it can do for how you can consume it. In the same way that what kind of actions are not allowed in the area, and what kind of traditional knowledge are kept in this area. So again, this challenges us our perspective of circular economy. It's not just about, the products, but it's also about accepting or experiencing the local community and local knowledge that they have and recycling it in a circle. Next. Quickly, the Luyon Beach and Mountain Resort. So basically, again, I'll give you a copy of the slides, but let me just brush through this. So they are the proof that literally when you go invest in green technologies, you can actually reap money from them. Literally, if you could see this closely, they have a computation how much they save by using cooking oil as tea light candles versus buying candles. They literally save like 10 pesos per each candle. And they're not spending anything anymore because they're using used cooking oil. So, I mean, they're a testament basically that when you do invest in green, there's an ROI, there's a return on investment of that. So a lot of that goes through also with their sustainable architecture. This kind of structure, instead of putting up a big fan or an aircon, they would use this instead. Okay. Here. Can you help? There you go. Next is El Nido Resort. Who has been here? Wanting to go here. Do you know how much it costs per night? A lot? Any like approximation? No, it's 15,000 a night minimum. And again, my point here is not saying that circular economy needs to be expensive, but it also shows that marketing your products to target specific markets who are actually environmentally aware actually kind of makes sense. So here, basically what they try to embody is that circular economy isn't just about green technologies, isn't just about the practices, but what they do involve are their staff, right? So when you ask their staff, everything about sustainability, about protection, conservation, and they also engage the local community surrounding the area because they know that it's a whole of system approach. Thank you. So, in doing so, last Newport World Resorts, familiar? So this is the one in front of Terminal 3. So they're actually one of our students in AIM. So what they do is that they have this I Love Host program wherein they assign green ambassadors for hotel. So look at this pool. Just one thing, if you have 2 minutes left before I wrap up. This is their pool. So this is the only sustainably heated pool. Can you guess why? How it's heated? How? More creative. Circular economy. Waste turning into heat from wow, dami nila niluto. Okay, because I only have probably a minute left and he would probably raise his hand already. Sirit na, no? So under this pool is actually their laundry area. So you can imagine the heat under that, right? From drying up the linen and everything. So they use that heat, the steam of it, to heat up the pool. So again, I'm just telling you that there are a lot of creative ways to do it without actually sacrificing the experience for people. Now, let me go through my last few slides. Promise, this is just 2 minutes. So here, basically, I wrapped up everything before. That's my conclusion. Can I go back to my previous? There. So basically, this is a run through of all the kinds of initiatives, activities that hospitality and tourism stakeholders are doing. But what now? Right? Like, yeah, sure, they might be there, but what about you guys? Are you willing to pay for 50,000 a day? Or are you willing to engage in those? So this is the important part of my presentation, which I hope presentation would allow. There you go. It's that quickly that we try to map out the kind of investments that hospitality players are using and the added value to the guests. So basically, the main point I'm driving here at is I started with telling you it's about choices. It's about going for an open mind. But it's really about striking a balance on what you think is actually acceptable for tourists. Again, the mindset, they're tourists, they don't care. And as business operators, you need to make money and still balance it out with going sustainably in circular economy. So with that, of course, I cannot give you a concrete solution to that. But here, I'd like to end by saying that this has been said a while ago. It's about collaboration, accountability, and synergy. But I guess I'd like to end. That really, this is so awkward, but really, that circular economy is about the choices that you and I are making every day. And I know you might not be involved as a business owner later on, or like or business owner in a hotel industry, but for at some point you'll be a tourist and you are a tourist. So the point I'm driving at here is that it's really about starting with an open mind and realizing that the choices we're making every day, literally, actually contributes to the circle that the circular economy is. So with that, thank you very much. Daghang salamat, and I hope you learned something.
Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. So that was a very interesting presentation. One dimension of circular economy is about personal choices. It looks like the solution to the challenges are within our hands, right? All we need to do is implement some behavior change, isn't it? Anyway, we apologize for the technical difficulties. I think we do appreciate the efforts of the operators, but sometimes the problems with technology is just beyond human control. Okay. All right, so our final presentation this morning, still morning, is on the attitudes toward zero waste measures and practices of sari-sari store owners and consumers and customers in 2 Philippine cities by Dr. Enrique G. Oracion. So Dr. Enrique Oracion is the director of the Research and Development Center at Silliman University and a full professor of anthropology and sociology. He obtained his bachelor's and master's degrees in sociology from Silliman University and his doctorate in anthropology from the University of San Carlos. His research interests include social and cultural anthropology, marine protected areas, and service learning and gender issues. Presenting on the attitudes toward zero waste measures and practices of sari-sari store owners and customers in the 2 Philippine cities, my call on now is Dr. Enrique G. Oracion.
may buntag pa. Kapit na may paniod to. So I hope I would still have my 20 minutes or I could make this 10 minutes. I'm going to read my paper na lang, no? Okay. If I'm going to explain further, I might be not finishing this 12 o'clock. Well, when you talk about sari-sari stores, sometimes opening ingon nga sira-sira stores. Pero wapo po jagalan o higher level convenience store. But we're going to focus more on sari-sari stores. So while we are promoting circular economies, I have my slides. I have my hair. Okay, here. Yeah. Okay. So while we are promoting circular economies, no, it's also interesting to find out the behaviors of store owners and consumers towards selling and buying. This would be in relation to how we manage plastic waste. Well, several studies. Here. Next slide, please. Well, several studies would show psychological, socioeconomic, and natural factors to influence human behavior. And one of these factors is a person's attitude towards particular objects, events, people, environments, and so on. And this could be positive or negative, which is also the composite result of interlocking external factors. And how a person perceives waste materials, particularly plastics, and the subsequent health hazards produced is a result of his or her accumulated knowledge and understanding of the phenomenon. And whatever one's assessment of the threats may shape one's attitude towards certain practices and measures on the use and disposal of plastic waste, particularly derived from the market, the circular market. Next slide. One of the distributors of plastic waste at the near tail end of the supply chain is the sari-sari or retail stores, but in smaller quantities and usually packed in plastic containers of various types and forms. Although in the past, sari-sari stores were already the most conveniently located establishments in the neighborhood where to buy immediate household needs, this has not seriously contributed to the indiscriminate use and disposal of plastic waste materials because of the traditional practice of selling smaller items using their own containers or being wrapped up in outdated newspapers. And I grew up with this kind of practice. Now, in this presentation, the attitudes of sari store owners and customers towards plastic waste practices and measures were examined to identify the demographic and sociocultural factors related to their attitudes. The aim was to recommend strategies to enrich or alter the attitudes of sari-sari store owners and customers toward or away from certain waste practices by promoting corresponding waste measures. And by the way, the data that I'm using here are found in the technical report of a project entitled Transdisciplinary Network for Designing Zero Waste Local Neighborhood Store Models in the Philippines, which is a collaborative project between Silliman University and SUAS University of London, with Dr. Jorge Emmanuel and Dr. Risa Morimoto as co-project leader. I was actually invited in this project, being an apologist and assigned to analyze the attitudes of store owners and consumers. The project was funded by a Global Challenges Research Fund networking grant and provided by the Academy of Medical Sciences and implemented in cooperation with the non-government organization Mother Earth Foundation. Now, the survey covered 54 sari-sari store owners and 195 customers in Quezon City and Dumaguete City. That's why the title is Two Philippine Cities. And the samples were comprised of individuals from low-income and middle-income households in Quezon City, and those in Dumaguete were from the poor and peripheral barangays. Now, the interview was done face-to-face, and I think that was post-pandemic, using semi-structured questionnaire while complying strictly the health protocols because of the COVID-19. So I'm going to present here the results divided into two attitudes of store owners and consumers. First, let's look into their attitudes towards waste measures. The Quezon City store owners favored dispensers and other measuring tools when selling small items. They also supported offering customers disposable plastic straws, selling natural products with no synthetic chemicals, and pushing the city's plastic bag regulation. More specifically, the middle-income barangays of Quezon City and core barangays of Dumaguete City favored selling reusable bags instead of single-use plastic bags. Meanwhile, the store owners who received training in operating a sari-sari store favored the traditional practice of having customers bring their containers to buy small items. The trained store owners also favored the concept of zero waste. The difference is also true in using dispensers, weighing scales, measuring cups, and refillable containers in selling goods, especially in small amounts. So take note, small amounts. Notably, the respondents' attitudes towards particular waste measures are mutually reinforcing. For instance, the store owners who agreed with the traditional practice of requiring customers to bring their containers when buying some small items considered the protection of the environment as a personal concern. They also agreed with the ban on single-use plastic bags, the alternative to sachet packaging in a general sense, and the selling of goods using dispensers. These findings suggest that the acceptability of a particular cluster of measures positively influences attitudes towards certain environmentally responsible sari-sari store practices. Now, with regard to the customers, their age, household size, and house distance positively influence their preference for sari-sari stores. So many of you here are customers, and imagine yourself at this particular instance. No? Many older customers became regular buyers of particular sari-sari stores to support them in business, particularly when they found the owners to be friendly. Meanwhile, customers with large households tend to buy and prefer to buy from sari-sari stores, most likely for smaller items because these are faster to transact with. Customers with houses farther away from the sari-sari stores were less concerned about convenience as a way of life during modern times. They were less busy and did not find buying from these sari-sari stores as convenient. Hence, they did not establish a socket relationship with them. Consequently, the distances of their houses are negatively related to their attitudes towards the zero waste measures adopted by the sari-sari stores. Therefore, distance is a hindering factor in requiring them to bring back or to bring containers to the sari-sari store and to use refillable containers. In contrast, customers residing closer to sari-sari stores showed positive buying attitudes or behaviors that reduced waste and inhibited the use of plastic containers. Now let's go to attitudes towards zero waste practices. For store owners, residency, age, sex, and having minor children are significantly associated with the attitude towards proposed zero waste practices related to using reusable and biodegradable consumer products. The number of years the store owners resided in the community is negatively associated with assuming environmental protection as a personal concern. However, contrary to the foregoing observation, the older the store owner's age, the more they favored selling washable napkins and natural products. The data implied that long-time resident sari-sari store owners, but not necessarily older in terms of age, tend to be indifferent about taking personal responsibility for protecting the environment. Meanwhile, the female store owners significantly favored selling reusable products such as alternatives to single-use products like washable napkins and washable napkins. Moreover, the number of children below 18 years old the store owners have is negatively associated with offering reusable spoons and plates. They also included younger store owners with minor children, unlike the demographically older store owners who knew past traditional practices in selling consumer items without plastic packaging. Similarly, the store owners who favored certain zero waste practices supported other related practices. For example, supportive store owners who sell washable cloth and panty napkins also endorse giving reusable straws to customers. They also favored giving reusable cups, spoons, forks, and plates. Interestingly, the store owners who refuse to give disposable plastic straws to customers agreed with the observance of the city's plastic bag regulation and subsequently the selling of reusable bags, really in business. No? They favored selling natural products because they are biodegradable and less harmful to the ecosystem. How about the customers? The sex, civil status, education of the customers, and location of the study sites are significantly associated with attitudes towards zero waste management in sari-sari stores. Location here refers to Dumaguete core and peripheral barangays and Quezon City low and middle income communities. More female sari-sari store customers favored using refillable and reusable containers and bringing their reusable containers. Regardless of sex, customers who were separated from their spouses considered the protection of the environment as a personal concern. However, I'm not going to explain why. They favored returning refillable containers because they had already established patronage or a Soki relationship with certain sari-sari stores. Moreover, they considered modern, convenient way of life important and supported sari-sari store owners by buying from them. On the other hand, widowed customers considered buying from a sari-sari store more convenient, while married customers did not trust branded products and agreed that health is the most important thing in life. So most customers with elementary education and were housewives agreed about bringing back refillable containers. Among the four communities surveyed, the lower income customers in Quezon City agreed most that modern life is important, as they also supported the sari-sari store owners. Also, they considered most of the protection of the environment to be a personal concern. They reportedly brought back refillable containers to the sari-sari stores. Meanwhile, more customers in the core barangays of Dumaguete trusted branded products. They also considered health to be the most important thing in life. Unfortunately, because of time, I could not explain the reasons behind those attitudes, which are more or less very complex to determine the pattern. Nonetheless, I, 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 I look into the influence of information on the attitudes of customers and have this kind of diagram. Access to and awareness of the right information about zero waste practices in sari-sari stores are related to customers' attitude towards such practices that may lead to adopting such practices. The major findings reveal that customers who had heard about zero waste management measures adopted by certain sari-sari stores favored it, particularly banning single-use plastic bags and bringing their own reusable containers and bags. Moreover, more customers who were aware of the traditional practice of buying from sari-sari stores in small quantities favored using their own containers or bags and having an alternative to sachet packaging. So what does this mean in terms of the implications in promoting proper zero waste management in sari-sari stores? The data show the tendency for urban situated and economically well-off sari-sari store owners to favor zero waste practices. And they support ordinances or policies reinforcing these practices. They also included store owners who received training on establishing and operating environmentally responsive sari-sari stores. Thus, more intervention efforts should focus on raising the awareness of sari-sari store owners in poor and peripherally situated barangays about the urgency and massive negative effects of improper waste disposal. They must be trained to practice zero waste management that will benefit their businesses and the community because everyone contributes to global plastic pollution problem. Promoting responsible behavior in waste management requires an integrative approach where one behavioral change is connected to another. The intervention design must not be a standalone approach to a single problem of particular plastic material, but this issue requires how one solution will be able to address several other related plastic problems, such as use in selling food items. Also, food safety measures must be emphasized in providing alternatives to plastic containers. Thus, while efforts are focused on raising sari-sari store owners' awareness of environmental protection and promotion of proper waste reduction and disposal, these should also be there should also be a community-wide effort with older persons as models, modeling and testimonials from older sari-sari store owners about the benefits of traditional selling and buying with refillable materials may be effective. In conclusion, the demographics of sari-sari store owners and customers, such as sex, age, civil status, and location, are significant indicators of understanding their attitudes towards zero waste measures and practices. Training exposure in operating environmentally friendly sari-sari stores and access to information about waste management measures are also related to their favorable attitudes towards waste disposal and reduction. Interestingly, the store owners and customers who express favorable attitudes towards zero waste management measures also demonstrated consistent attitudes towards zero waste practices. So these are the recommendations. Awareness campaigns promoting proper plastic waste disposal and reduction should be demographically specific to significantly influence the attitudes and practices of customers, various types of needs. While IEC materials are needed, model sari-sari stores must be designed and constructed strategically around the neighborhood, like in poor areas where large households are commonly found. This must be easily accessible to the majority of the customers, especially the elderly persons who prefer not to buy small items but in larger quantities from supermarkets. Workplaces must also be considered where to construct model sari-sari stores to become attractive and convenient for customers busy with work and to bring refillable and reusable containers. The presence of model sari-sari stores in zero waste management situated in strategic areas of the neighborhood and workplaces must also be promoted through massive mass and social media information campaigns to show how these are beneficial to the environment and health of consumers. Meanwhile, local government units through barangays must institute ways for residents to patronize these kinds of sari-sari stores as part of their plastic waste reduction measures, just the old times when sari-sari stores are the most convenient source of household needs. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Oracion. So that wraps up the three presentations this morning. Let me just ask the organizing team, do we still have the 40-minute allocated time for Q&A? 30 minutes. All right, so we will now open the floor for open forum. As you can see, all the speakers are seated on the stage. So anyone has a question, please raise your hand and the microphone will be turned over to you. Okay, so I believe there are microphones on both sides of the auditorium.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Renel Terial, faculty, College of Business Administration. I teach economics and finance. I just want to give a couple of takeaways and then I would like to ask your opinion on things. I'd like to thank PIDS and PASCN for putting this together. I think all three papers and the keynote address all mutually reinforce each other on many things. The first speaker, that the ideas that for them to implement the circular economy principles, they have to find some benefit from it. And it seems they don't really realize that yet. Dr. Oracion, you were saying that a lot of these are from attitudes that can mutually reinforce each other for them to adopt this. And maybe we can reinforce those. And Dr. Gutierrez, of course, Eileen, I'm very curious about tourism, of course, that it's our attitudes also, whether we choose what to do, and also that it's very much the stakeholders' involvement in this. For Dr. Gutierrez, I'm sure you're well aware that around here also we have very good models for this. Apo Island and the Darwin Marine Preserves are very good examples of community-based marine protected areas. But I'd also like to note that these were established more for the benefit of the community and not specifically for tourism. So I was wondering, anyone can answer this. Dr. Oracion, you've done a lot of research on Darwin and Apo Island also. So I was wondering, can that idea of a community-based approach to it, where the stakeholders are aware of the benefits, because they have to know the benefits, and realize the immediate benefits for them to apply it. And I think that's how it worked in Apo Island. They spent a lot of time educating people on the benefits they'd have to protect that 25%, as our president said. Okay, not for tourism, but for themselves. Can this be scaled up to other tourism areas? Can the government help with this? And also, what is your opinion about other practices in other tourism areas where they are saying it is sustainable, but maybe ambiguous, not necessarily so? I will give an example of Oslo whale shark watching, which is now being replicated in other areas of Bohol. So just your opinions on some of these?
So I think, hi, sir, thank you very much for those questions. I didn't expect that there would be a tourism specific question, but thank you for that. I guess I can answer it based on the experience that we do working at AIM and the way we're working with local government units and regional offices with the Department of Tourism. So I'd like to start first with the examples in Dumaguete. And I think whenever we teach, whenever we help LGUs develop or craft their tourism development plans, we actually start with that the community know themselves what they need to do to preserve or to conserve the area. Because a lot of times people think that when they need to develop tourism, it's just about the money. But I think it's a great starting point that in Apo Island and in other areas, that there's this strong consciousness that, okay, with or without tourism, we're gonna keep this as is. And I think I could relate it to the example of Masungi, wherein it's not them who's adjusting. It's actually the people and their willingness to go to that area, knowing that this is what the rules are, this is how things are. That's really a strong message that, okay, you're coming to Apo Island because you are aware that we're like this and that you are willing to take part in it, that you're willing to contribute to it, not to go against it, because this is how we do things. So yes, I believe it could be upscaled, but then it's a challenge. It's a lot of work, especially if it works with the public sector. Because at least for Masungi, when I was working with them, it's kind of like a bubble in some sense because they're the ones in control of the area. But then when more stakeholders are involved, I think that's where the challenge is. But definitely, there are cases that goes to show that starting with the community is the basic step. Like maybe you could look at the example of Boho River Cruise also in Cebu. So also it starts with the local community, just amplified with the local government unit. And together, they actually built this system that's sustainable and that promotes circular economy in that sense. And then I guess for the second question, in terms of, others would call it like greenwashing, like basically telling people that you're sustainable, but you're not. I mean, I hope I have the authority to tell people which ones aren't really sustainable and which are really sustainable. But I think for AIM's sake, for what we do at the center, we try to really establish what sustainability means. We even held an award for sustainability with the hope of partnering with the Department of Tourism to really, we cannot explicitly say that this is sustainability, this is not. But what we can do is like what Sir Enrique was mentioning, there could be models for sustainability that people could follow. Instead of telling them you're not sustainable, you actually show them what sustainable practices really are. And from there, hopefully, that they would associate themselves to that. So I guess it's more of that, showing examples instead of, because there's really no body there's no specific organization or institution that would tell you that. So I think that's really more of how it works, at least in the case of the Philippines.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. So let me just acknowledge that we have participants in Zoom. And we have one question right now. So we're just going to be interchanging questions between the physical audience and the virtual audience. So there is a question here, and this is not specifically addressed to one speaker. So I would probably like to get the thoughts of the three speakers regarding this question. This comes from Raymond Viray of Columban College Incorporated. Will including circular economy principles in the curriculum as a separate subject in basic education help in raising awareness regarding circular economy. Who would like to take the first?
Okay. I think just to emphasize, as mentioned in my presentation as well as in the last presentation, no, there's a need to increase awareness amongst a lot of stakeholders, specifically the youth, of regarding what the circular economy. But in regarding the specifics of incorporating into the curriculum, yes, it is important. As to the matter of do we need a separate subject specifically on circular economy, as of now, I think there's a need to streamline at least principles on certain courses or subjects, no? Because it's important to ingrain amongst the youth what really circular economy is. I think even in my time, in the previous generations, no, or at least in the previous generation, kasi 50 years lang naman, no? So, meron na tayong konsepto ng recycle, reuse, remanufacture, refurbish. But we look at it at a piecemeal approach. We look at it, we look at them as things that can be done separately. I think the point about circular economy is that it's a system. When you do all those things together, it creates societal effect and impact that is conducive to the environment, to the society, and to economic growth. So it's basically putting all of these elements into one coherent approach, at least, trying to introduce circular economy as a systematic thing. It's not something that can be done individually or separately. No, I think that's an important thing to do. First of all, you present circular economy as a systemic approach. You draw on what are the existing things that are being taught about or talked about, at least in classrooms. But definitely it is important to incorporate it in our curriculum and also to, have a common definition of what really circular economy is. Kasi ngayon, if you ask individuals, iba-ibang definition ng circular economy eh. For some, it's only a glorified recycling, remanufacturing. For others, it's a systemic approach. If you look at the Philippines, wala pa rin tayong batas. So we really don't have a baseline of what is the common definition of a circular economy is. But it doesn't mean that we can start. No, we should start. Okay? So I think as much as we'd like to incorporate this into the curriculum, the first important thing to do is identify what's the national definition of circular economy. What is being talked about? How can we collate them and how can we present them as circular economy? And I think that would be very important. As to the matter of do we need a separate subject, I really can't tell you because I'm not an education expert. But what I think is important is to mainstream and streamline the principles of circular economy and present it as a systemic approach rather than a piecemeal ad hoc thing. No? Kasi yun nga yung problema eh. It's very active in the flavor of the times. So may bagong konsepto, gagawa ng bagong initiative, it will die down and then you come up with another thing. As much as circular economy is a sustainable thing, many of the things that we do tend to be myopic. It's hit, you do it. No? It's the same thing with businesses. You do things because it sells. You do this, you adopt a wooden spoon, wooden fork. Once it dies down, you come up with another thing that sells. So I think it's balancing. How do we ensure that businesses and even individuals pull efforts, pull into their contribute into what we're trying to do as a society as a whole. No? So it's a whole society approach. And I think that's my honest answer to.
Personally, from sociological and anthropological perspective, I think there's no need to really have a separate course or subject for this because the whole idea of circular economy is grounded on the concept of sustainable development, zero waste management, and I think it's on the teacher, the creativity of the teacher to integrate these concepts in the teaching of business courses, in psychology, in sociology, ethics, and so on. It doesn't have really to make use of the whole core of circular economy because I've said integrated concept. I mean, there are so many other terms that are connected with circular economy. Oftentimes, we talk about circular economy, it's really business. But then, if you engage in business, profit is major consideration. But if you integrate now the concept of sustainable development, it may not be profitable after all if you're going to destroy the resources that we derive, these products that we're selling, the services we have. Just like in tourism. In fact, when you talk about it, there are two things that we have to consider: the sustainability of people who's going to manage the resources and the sustainability of the resources itself. So I will be going back to the topic that I presented. Attitude is a very important thing with regards to promoting this notion of circular economy. Attitude would lead to practice, and that means behavioral change is a very important thing to happen, and that should start from the individual. Thank you very much.
Just quickly, I think for me, I would sort of be in the middle ground. I would say it doesn't have to be included in the curriculum, but I think it needs to be integrated into the basic households, like teaching kids, like starting from the houses. You don't have to put it in school. You just have to start as mothers, as ates, as kuyas. It's the concept is really basic, right? The circle, like I told you. And I think that's the beauty of it, like understanding the essence and explaining it even as to kids. So that's my thing.
Thank you very much for your thoughts on that. I'm just out of curiosity, in the physical audience here, can you raise hands if you are in favor of having a separate subject on circular economy? Just very quickly, and raise hands, just to see, to get the pulse of the physical audience here. Okay, there you go. So for the Zoom audience, majority are think that there's no need to have a separate subject on circular economy. All right. Do we have a question from the physical audience?
Hello, good morning. My name is Dignity Lagunay. I'm a marketing management student here in Silliman University. And first, I'd like to thank the PASCN, PIDS, and Silliman University for hosting this symposium on circular economy and getting to know that more people are getting to learn more about the concept. So I'd just like to preface my question with, as environmentally conscious consumers of our environmental footprint, I, along with my friends, have often made decisions not to avail of certain products or services because of their reliance on single-use plastic. For instance, when choosing a coffee shop, we opt not to go to those places that only offer takeout or dine-in beverages in plastic cups. And this decision isn't only limited to coffee shops. It extends to many other businesses as well. This is why I believe that the responsibility for achieving a circular economy shouldn't fall primarily on the shoulders of consumers. While we all have a role to play, the private sector and especially the large corporations and businesses who largely dictate the products and packaging available to us should take greater responsibility in driving this transition. So my question is, what do you think are the biggest barriers in mainstreaming the transition to a circular economy, and how can we overcome them while ensuring that this transition is a just, fair, and inclusive process, particularly for vulnerable groups like those in poverty, small-scale farmers, fisher folks, and micro-entrepreneurs? Thank you.
I think in the interest of time, I just ask one of the speakers to respond to that. And may I call Mr. Katigbak to talk about the MSMEs. So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, just to quickly answer, what are the barriers? I think in one of the slides I mentioned that there are several, but in case of the Philippine women-led MSMEs, one of the problems is lack of awareness regarding government programs. They don't know really what the government is doing. Second is lack of awareness about the benefits of circular economy. What really is in it for them if they need to adopt it. Third is risk aversion, because when you talk about adopting circular economy, for many businesses, when you try and incorporate new things, it means disruption of business. No? So the fourth is, of course, government, as I mentioned, government policy. I think fourth is societal. It has to do with the societal perception about circular economy. Because for many people in our society, when you talk about sustainable practices, you think about practices that are not cheap, meaning you need to invest. No? And for many small micro producer enterprises, if you talk about renewable energy, if you talk about sustainable packaging, if you talk about eco-design, these are things that you cannot do overnight. And these are things that you need to do technical know-how and technology in. That is where the government comes to the picture. No, that is where policy support should be provided. That is also where local governments are very important, and that is where collaboration becomes paramount. That's why we talk about partnerships, collaborations, because you're basically talking about pooling resources. You're mainly encouraging them to, have a stake. Because if you ask them to do something without them putting into something coming from them, then that means that they have nothing to lose. No? So ang importante, we have to ensure that they have a part in it. And again, the government will play a very important role in setting the direction. But then again, it's the role of the consumers. It's the role of the private sector, non-governmental organization. No? It's about attitudes, about beliefs, about behavior. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of barriers still present. But again, we can always do our part. No, we look to the government for guidance, but it doesn't mean that we cannot do anything. Marami tayong kayang gawin. As you mentioned, as a students, you do this, no, you do certain activities and such. I think one way also of helping micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises is by telling them what you really need. Because majority of our respondents said, hindi naman nagsasabing customers namin kung ano yung gusto nila in terms of circular economy. We don't collaborate with them in terms of our products because they don't tell us what they really want in terms of sustainable consumption and production. So one way is to actively give feedback. No, it's very simple, but it might be effective. So yeah, I think those are my responses.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Katigbak. So there's just a comment here from one of our Zoom participants. I think one of the speakers lamented earlier that wala tayong batas on circular economy. The comment actually here is from the House of Representatives, from Maria Luz Concepcion Balduesa, Balduesa. So there are actually two House bills on circular economy pending in the current 19th Congress. These are the HB 8791 and the HB or House Bill 9791. The latter of which proposes the institutionalization of a circular economy strategy framework, and of course, taking into consideration the circular economy framework. So it's just a comment, so I'll take it. So there's really no question here. There's another question from Zoom, and this relates to the use of renewable energy. I'm going to rephrase the question a little bit. For those of you who have conducted studies on MSMEs and sari-sari store, did you come across from the responses of your respondents regarding their access to renewable energy, and what type of renewable energy source were they able to access in running their businesses?
We actually asked them in terms of their usage of renewable energy, and many of them mentioned that they don't use renewable energy. They don't use solar, they don't use wind, they don't obviously use geothermal, because for many of them, they're unfamiliar of where to access it, and there really no need for them to use it, because majority of the MSMEs use coal and other non-renewable energy sources, which are cheaper, which are more accessible. No? So, but I think one important thing that we also found out was that they know that there are MRFs or material recovery facilities and other recycling related facilities that are in place in many local government units. They know where it is, they know how to use it, although they have a tendency not to use it or not to use them because we haven't really asked them because of if it's because of the proximity, if it's because of the effort to do it, or because of the awareness of what to put into these MRFs. no? But the basic point is that hindi masyadong ginagamit ang renewable energy source. Hindi madalas ginagamit ang renewable energy sources, but they are aware of the MRFs and other facilities available to them. Although we haven't really asked them deeper regarding the reasons why they haven't really used that. We're not able to do that in terms of the survey. But to answer the question, that's the extent of the coverage of the survey that we did.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so do we have a question? HOR, sa likod ulit dito. Oh, sorry. So there was actually, earlier I shared to you a comment from the House of Representatives. There's actually a question which was written at the back of the paper, which I did not look into. My apologies. So the question now, in relation to the pending House bills on circular economy, do you think we need such a circular economy centric legislation, or is now a good time to introduce it? Actually, that was one of my first thoughts. I would like to synthesize the presentation, the three presentations, because you've touched on how we can adapt the principles of the circular economy. And I think without really complicating it, when you talk about circular economy, we just have to remember the three R's. So you have to reduce waste, reuse or recycle materials, and then regenerate the natural system. This was actually mentioned by Dr. McCann during her speech this morning. So do you think that there is a role for government here to regulate our behavior, our actions, households, community, government, industry, so that we can actually move forward to a better, to use the term, circular economy centric attitude to promote sustainability in the Philippines? So I would like to ask the thoughts of the three speakers on this.
I will start with the sari-sari store. Para dili magsira-sira. And I think the local government would provide incentives like tax holidays, like what's being used in big business. No? If there is a sari-sari store that sell products following the circular economy principles, then perhaps the local government will provide those incentives like no tax for a certain period, promotion of the sari-sari stores in the community. But of course, we are always worried about the source of the products they're selling. So at the national level, there could be a corresponding laws or policies along that line where selling in bulk would be cheaper, perhaps. So sari-sari stores could buy it and then selling that, as mentioned, using reusable containers or bringing their own containers, just like the old times. I also remember when I was still young, though I'm still young now, I used to bring bottle and go to the sari-sari store, buy patis or tuyo, vinegar, asin, and all those. And if that would be practiced in a neighborhood, and there is that particular sari-sari store that is supported by the barangay or by the municipality, then that may encourage the neighboring houses to buy from the store. So I think that's a small thing to do. But if you have so many of those in a particular municipality, that could be a model. And I think that's the purpose of the project that was initiated by that collaboration of Silliman and the other university to promote a model of sari-sari store that really practice circular economy at the same time manage plastic waste. And therefore, working on two objectives.
I think for me, just quickly for the tourism and hospitality industry, I'll also bank on the modeling because as I've mentioned earlier, we've been closely working with the Department of Tourism in terms of really establishing a sustainable tourism awards, just so people can know for sure what does sustainability actually mean and what it actually stands for. But also, more than the government being a regulatory body, I think it's also just as important that the government becomes a role model in itself. Because when we go to government offices, I mean those basic things, you know, like what kind of tissue are you using? There are tissues that are not made from new paper. You know, those basic things. I think it starts and ends with modeling. So I think beyond regulatory, it's also the role of the government to be a model for circular economy to actually work.
In terms of regulation, do we need regulatory authorities or such? Again, the regulations are already in place. No? It's a matter of trying to put them all together, cluster of circular economy. And again, if you cannot do that if you don't have a single law that is calling for the institutionalization of a national circular economy framework. So the simple answer is yes, we need a circular economy centric framework because the foundation's already there. You just put them all together into one cluster. So again, when talk about circular economy, it's not something that you can put in a vacuum. It is very much integrated into the other things that we do because it's a societal approach. You cannot single it out, no? Yes, framework would be good, but other factors are also involved. Because you talk about economy, you're talking about society, you're talking about environment, you're talking about the people, you're talking about economic growth, no? So it's really it's a systemic approach. I think that's a very important point, no? In terms of tax incentives, I would agree to that, no? That means every other store you would see ano ukay-ukay. What else? Ano po ba yung mga madalas na nagbebenta, no? Kaya lang, again, question is, yun, no? The question is, saan kaya nanggagaling itong mga waste na ito? No? Yung iba siguro sa ukay-ukay galing sa mga yumaunan. Pero again, it's your decision, no? And the point is, yung konsepto ng eco-design. When you talk about eco-design, you come up with things that can be reused so many times and that can be reincorporated back to the natural cycle. No? Very important. Thank you.
Okay, just on the comment on the tax incentives, I think tax incentives would require the use of government resources. Okay, so if we're going to go down the path of providing tax incentives to businesses, remember, we're talking about some small businesses here like sari-sari store, who I think are probably not registered with DTI, right? And probably some of them don't even pay their taxes, which means therefore that when we provide them with tax incentives, there has to be some monitoring. There has to be some kind of a control to ensure that the resources are not being misallocated to those who are not actually using it properly. So would you have any idea of, because you mentioned about 99.6% of the businesses in the Philippines are MSMEs, but when you look at those, the smaller ones, the micro enterprises, the sari-sari stores, do you have any idea as to how many of them are actually business registered with DTI and therefore are, paying their due share of taxes?
I'm actually currently doing a study also in sari-sari stores, women-owned sari-sari stores. And I think in our study, which I will be presenting next week, PASCN as well, and PIDS as well. So I'm plugging it already on behalf of Jean and Sir Francis. Basically, what we found out is that most of them are not really registered. There's really no percentage to that. And when we asked them why they do not register, they did not answer. They more of answered, we registered because we're required to, because there's someone policing the area and they wouldn't stop nudging them until they show something. So imagine the permits would cost them 500 to 800 pesos. And how much, I mean, you need to renew it every year. So just imagine how much hassle it would be for how much does the sari-sari store actually make. So I think that's
have to wait for the next presentation of Dr. Gutierrez in the next PASCN forum, right? Do we have any other question from the audience? Yes, go ahead.
Hi. So yeah, thank you so much for being here, PASCN and PIDS. It's a very insightful symposium so far. So the transition to a circular I'm Ed Pala, marketing management student. So the transition to a circular economy is multifaceted and complex. That's why we have the need for collaboration, and we identify that it's crucial and essential and necessary for us to attain a circular economy. But I kind of wanted to not add to the blame shifty narrative on the MSMEs and consumers that it's about their choices and behaviors. Instead, I would like to shift the narrative, considering that both governments and large corporations have the resources and influence to drive systemic behavioral change. Shouldn't they lead the circular economy transition by creating policies and incentives that makes it easier for MSMEs to follow suit, instead of heavily focusing on educating smaller businesses about the concept itself? Given that large corporations play a major role in artificially creating the demand for single-use plastics and the sachet economy, what specific steps have been identified as necessary to change that? We understand that in order for them to take action, we would also have to pressure and incentivize them to work on it. So shouldn't we work on ways to lobby and pressure these entities to take action? And not just in terms of trends, because there is a green trend within this generation itself. Because the concept of greenwashing has been really apparent lately because of the green trend. But how can we actually actualize them to do this trend, to listen to not just economic demands, but actual demands in the transition to the circular economy?
I think you have several questions there. Could you just read just one clear question that the speakers will be able to respond to? And I would request the speaker to limit the response to 30 seconds. Just we still have one more question to go.
Sige. So I guess what are the steps, and shouldn't we focus, or what should we focus on basically to attain this?
Okay.
Okay, I'll start. 30 seconds. Ideally, I guess in a utopian world, yes, we could ask the big businesses to do it. But I think what we forget is that when we're in the circular economy bubble, we're so aggressive to it. But we forget that businesses exist because they need to make money. And while it makes sense to put up circular economy practices, we also have to account the other side. How will they make money if us, the consumers, are not demanding for it? So I guess that's it.
I think the call for 30 seconds, the call for policymakers is, in terms of circular economy, we'd be running around in circles if we cannot directly involve the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. We understand that there's a supply chain, and majority of the supply chains, or at least the main lines of chains, are controlled by large corporations. But there is where partnerships and collaboration come to the picture. There, okay.
Okay, thank you. So we will now have the final question for today. So go ahead.
Hello, good morning. So basically my question is actually related. I'm sorry. So I'm Argeline Kate Berganyo, and I'm a senior economics student of the College of Business Administration here in Silliman. And my question is actually related to the question earlier by one of my fellow Sillimanians. So we recognize the role of government as the central body lobbying the policies and also the implementation. And they play a big role in the circular economy. And you also mentioned that big corporations are the front runners of practicing the circular economy in our country. And according to your research, you recommended that for MSMEs to strengthen its transition to a circular economy, there is a need for the government to step in. And I would just like to add, like, how specifically can we place the position of large corporations in the circular economy framework for them to also help the transition? Because I think what hinders the MSMEs is the lack of resources. So having small resources, they cannot eventually shift to circular economy right away. So that's my question, sir.
Okay, so let me address that question to Dr. Gutierrez because the other two speakers did not cover corporate world. In your presentation, Dr. Gutierrez, you did talk about tourism and hospitality. When you look at tourism hospitality, you're actually looking at tourism operators, hotel companies, tourists, and regulators. Go ahead.
So I think, well, I didn't expect that I would be answering that question. I was giving the mic to them. But anyway, I guess in terms of what's the role of the bigger enterprises in the picture, it's really first, I think it's not really the drivers of it. Like, for example, I mentioned to you earlier, the intercontinental hotel groups, the Newport World Resorts, they're actually the role models that the smaller players can look at. That's one thing. Another thing that these big players can do is that they actually make the knowledge of circular economy more accessible to the smaller players. What I mean by that, for example, in the case of Newport World Hotel Resorts, what they do is that they really educate small hotel owners and small businesses and telling them this is what we do and this is how you can apply it as well. Because I wasn't able to show earlier in the slides, but what they do, if, for example, the wine bottles that they finish in the hotels, no, they chop it off and use it as glasses. So I mean, like just basic things that smaller players can do actually makes the idea of circular economy and sustainability more digestible and much more doable instead of renewable energy, green technology. So I guess that's how I would put it.
So as you can see, the discussion on circular economy is a very interesting one, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. I thank the physical audience and the virtual audience for sharing their thoughts, asking questions. Let's give a round of applause to our three speakers, Mr. Katigbak, Dr. Gutierrez, and Dr. Oracion. Over to you, Eric.
Thank you so much, Dr. Julius. And once again, thank you to our panelists and everybody here for really being involved in making certain our discussion today is as thorough as it was. Now, I'm certain most of us have gained insight in our role to make our region more involved in its practices towards a circular economy. Alongside this, as we near the end of our program, it's time to recognize the individuals who contributed to the information that we know. For the awarding of certificates, may I please call on stage to give the awards on behalf of Silliman University Administration President, Dr. Wilma M. Tejero Liberios, Dean of the College of Business Administration. And on behalf of President Orbeta, Dr. Francis Mark A. Kimba, Project Director of the Philippine APEC Study Center Network and Senior Research Fellow of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies. All right, now to allow me to read the citation with the certificates. All right, once again, everybody. So allow me to read the citation. This certificate of appreciation is presented to Dr. Julius P. Relampagos for serving as the moderator during the Circular Economies in Action, Localizing APEC's Vision in Visayas Symposium, organized by the Philippine APEC Study Center Network of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies and Silliman University, given the 6th day of November 2024 at Silliman University in Dumaguete, Negros Oriental. Signed by PIDS President Dr. Aniceto C. Orbeta Jr. and Silliman University President Dr. Betty Cernol McCann. A round of applause, please. There will also be a token of appreciation to be given to once again to our moderator and to our speakers. Now for a quick photo opportunity, may you direct your attention to our camera individual at the front. Now, the same certificate of appreciation with the same citation is presented to Mr. Jovito Jose P. Katigbak. A round of applause, please. Thank you so much. This certificate of appreciation is also presented to Dr. Eylla Laire M. Gutierrez. A round of applause, please. Last but not the least, the certificate of appreciation with the same citation is given to Dr. Enrique G. Oracion. A round of applause, please. Of course, we're not done yet. Thank you again, everyone. I now invite all the panelists to join us back again on stage for a group photo. To be followed by the panelists, I will be requesting all deans and directors to please prepare alongside the stage as you will be asked to come up front also for the photo opportunity. Again, deans and directors coming from all universities, please join us here on stage. Thank you so much. May I now again request the presence of all the deans and directors coming from the different universities.
Friends of environment, if you can come up. Deans, directors, program heads, if you are here.
So yes, just compress a little bit for the photo. Okay po. So as for our final photo, let's wait for everybody. Yes. So may we request everybody to please join us and please rise for our photo. So yes, everybody to just please stand and please move to the center. So now we're going to face behind us. Yes, where the camera is. Then sige po, the photo will be taken up top. So again, please face up. You'll see yourselves there for our group photo. Yes po. Can you move forward na po? Okay po, our photographer is up already there. So please again, put your best smiles and best faces on po. He's requesting that those in the front row come move back a little bit if you're able to, or move to the steps if you can, so that your faces will be seen. Is that all right, Ken? All right, everybody. So let's again direct your attention there. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Okay, so nobody don't go yet. So I'm requesting everybody to please take their seats for a very brief moment for the final portions of our program. I promise our lunch, we will eat it together. So again, please find your seats for a very brief moment. We will end our program. So as we come to the closing of our program, I would like to call back again Dr. Kimba to deliver his closing remarks. A round of applause, please. Hello, I think we deserve a louder clap again. A round of applause, please. There you go.
Thank you, Erica. As I understand, between lunch and everybody's lunch, so I'll try to make this very quick. I think I want to make a quick recap of what has been discussed, because it's already it's a very rich discussion of the experiences of circular economy and what is being done in the Philippines and what's being done in other countries as well. I want to highlight what Dr. McCann has mentioned in her speech, because she made us consider our practices. You know? So she made us think about how do we buy things. You know? So made us think about whether we're buying shampoo and buying water in plastic bottles. Similar to what Eylla did when she was asking us about our practices when we stay in hotels. So I think this is the root or the center of having a circular economy transition. It's to really think about our personal attitudes and behavior. And if you were paying attention earlier also towards the Q&A, a lot of the attitudes are also being discussed, and the need to have this as part of the curriculum. We were discussing earlier that recalling from the experience of Japan, where they actually teach very young children about the values of needed for their as they grow up. I think that's also something that we need to do about shifting the mindset of people from consumer. You just keep on consuming a linear economy to a circular economy really begins at when children are young. And so I think we are very lucky that we are doing this here at Silliman University, where there's an opportunity to mold minds and to mold educators in incorporating circular economy into their teaching and into their way of life. And so I end again. Let me thank Silliman University, Ma'am Wilma Tejeros, for their hospitality, for welcoming us, welcoming the Philippine APEC Study Center Network to your university. We really appreciate all the hard work of the team from PIDS and from Silliman University for this successful symposium. As closing, I invite everyone to really think about our attitudes and our behavior, because the circular economy is not a fad. It's really going to be here to as a long-term
force that we really need to embrace as we move into the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kimba, and thank you so much, everyone. So these are just a few reminders as you leave today's venue. The speaker's presentations will be available at the PIDS website. Meanwhile, you may download a copy of the study from the link provided in the Zoom or chat box and Facebook comment section for those who are in our online viewers. As well as please help us in improving the event by answering our feedback form through the link provided on your screen, or as well over here, the link that is provided right here in our very room. Please note as well that the e-certificate of participation will be sent to your email automatically if and only if you answer our feedback form once again. That being said, you may also approach any of our secretariat members here if you are wishing to look for a physical copy of your certificate of participation. Please also follow Philippine Institute for Development Studies and Silliman University's social media platforms to stay updated for their events. And of course, we have a list of different events coming this November for PIDS, right here from November 12 to November 28. You may take a look of that. If there's any more or these topics engage or interest you, I'm certain that these topics won't fail you guys if you do join. Of course, also, this is an exciting opportunity for everyone. This 4 p.m. at the MBA presentation room, there will be a roadshow that will really showcase the different opportunities for those who are interested in funding their research, master thesis, and POHON dissertation. Lastly, this is the exciting part. I'm extending an invite and excited to invite all of our faculty and staff for a networking lunch in the main hall. So right after here, you may join us together so that we can, of course, talk further about what we've discussed here today. All of that being said, on behalf of Silliman University and PASCN, we extend our heartfelt appreciation to everyone who is with us online and physically for your presence and participation in today's symposium here in Silliman University. We look forward to welcoming you to future events. And of course, in the spirit of Via Veritas Vita, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great lunch. So the certificate of attendance, also everyone, is available at the secretariat team, so you may get that. However, the certificate of participation, once again, will only be given to you once you've submitted your feedback form. Thank you so much, and amping mo sa pagbiyahe.
So our certificate of attendance, especially for our faculty coming from other schools, please claim them from the secretariat. But the certificate of participation, we only give that after you submit your feedback form at the